Welcome back to the Vault Report with Rhode Island assistant Kenny Johnson. The Rams have won two straight, including the conference opener against a very good St. Joe's team. I want to begin with that St. Joe's game and the feeling in the locker room just after a big win like that. What was it like in the locker room after that? I'm sure proud of the guys.
Yeah, there was a lot of excitement. I think the guys are kind of took it as validation, the hard work they've been putting in. Um, you know, it showed on the court. I mean, they've been striving to grow closer together. Anytime adversity strikes, you have two options. You can run for the hills and hide, or you can grow closer together, strategize and come out and fight. And I think anybody who's watched us play these last two games have seen that these guys have chosen to fight harder, be more dedicated to each other, and grow closer together.
Definitely. And one of those guys obviously new, not to the team, but in order, him being able to play. And I'm talking about obviously David Green, having him be a leader on the court. I know Miller has talked about him being a leader, throughout the offseason in practices, but just to have his presence on the court. What does that toughness, his leadership mean to this team?
I mean, honestly, that's where it starts. I mean, just him being tough, him being a team guy, him being somebody pulling in the right direction. He echoes the sentiments of the coaching staff. He's done it from day one. Um, so for him to be able to be out there and contribute physically, I mean, has been meant the world to us. It's how we practice, honestly. Our style of play. Maybe it doesn't show up to the naked eye, but there's a certain style of play that we've been preparing for, training for, without David Green, without David Fuchs, for a few games there. It kind of limited us as far as what we were trying to get accomplished and the way we were trying to grow. I mean, it's still a new group, um, assembled here in the summertime. So they're still learning each other. They're still growing. That's what the preseason is for. But it's great to be full staff, full speed ahead as we head into conference play.
Absolutely. And a lot of attention deservingly so. You look at deservingly so. Sorry, you look at these last two games with David Green, but also, as you mentioned, health. Fuchs in particular, he comes back for that Northeastern game. Just his presence and how that impacts the rest of the guys. Because, again, you guys were battling injuries, obviously, during a tough December. But to have him back and his impact added David Green, obviously, with that, but just kind of putting everyone else kind of in their place. And like you said, what you guys have been training for and preparing for.
Yeah, I mean, David Fuchs, he's a freshman. Sometimes I think, when you look at guys that are that big, that strong, that physical, you tend to forget the fact that he's a freshman. I mean, and he has a maturity level that exudes, a little bit older than his age. But I mean, he's had two straight double doubles.
Yep.
It's not an easy thing in college basketball nowadays. And we're not a team that's short on talent in the interior. I mean, you have Tyson Brown, who's been consistent each and every day throughout the entire, since the day he got here, honestly. You have Jeremy Famina, who's growing into his role. You have Roy Stewart, who's always capable of contributing. You've had Joseph Bilal, who has experience, who's battled injuries, but he's, fighting to contribute. So we're not short on talent, and there's only so many minutes that can be played in a game. You got a 40-minute window at that five spot, and I think for David to be able to contribute at a high level consistently, something to be said for him. Especially coming back, without having the opportunity to regain his condition. I think that's something for everyone to understand. Even with David Green, we're seeing a version of him that is not at full condition yet. He's still working his way back into game shape, and he hadn't played in over a year, and he wanted to go out there and contribute in any way he could to the team, to the collective effort to try to help us get back on the right track. And so we're still working through some conditioning, we're still working through some continuity stuff, but I commend David for the work he's been putting in as well.
And you had mentioned limited minutes. You look at obviously with guys coming back with injuries, and like you said, it doesn't take a rocket scientist or an expert. Obviously, like you mentioned, there's only 40 minutes in the game, five guys can play. But in terms of the readiness of guys, Weston in particular, didn't play one game, he comes and has an impact. You talked about Famina coming in and giving an impact specifically in that St. Joe's game. Just the ability of the guys, how do you feel like as a staff to just, be ready when it's their time and know that every game's not going to be, might not be their game to shine, but the ability to stay ready, which seemed like in that St. Joe's game, you saw the bench really kind of pick up that game middle of the second half.
Yeah, and definitely proud moments. I mean, as a coach, you preach that next man up mentality. You want to have all of your pieces ready to roll at a given time. Each game is going to present a different challenge. St. Joe's is a team that obviously likes to spread you out, and they have scoring at all five positions, and they can kind of give you a five-out look at times. So that may not necessarily lead to some of our personnel having favorable matchups. But regardless of the personnel that we're about to play against, we've been preaching here, especially lately, that game day, honestly, is those days between the game days. Take as an example, I don't know, let's say we played on a Sunday. We got that Monday and Tuesday before that Wednesday game. Monday and Tuesday is when the real hard work gets done. That's where you build your confidence as an individual player. That's when you give the coaching staff confidence that you understand the game plan, that you're ready to roll. And when you have the talent that we have, there is competition within practice as well, and everyone has an opportunity to earn what they get, as far as playing time and the ability to contribute. But more importantly, what you want to have is you want to have a team full of guys that are all ready to go. They all understand the game plan. They all understand the personnel they're competing against. And I think that truly showed up. Whether go back to the Northeastern game with Joseph Bilal hadn't played until late in the second half, and he was able to come in and contribute 4 great minutes for us that really helped propel us to the victory, with all the other factors and all the other things that have gone on in the game. You saw it with Brandon Weston the other day. You saw it with Jeremy Famina with his contributions, as you're referencing. That only happens if guys are in the right mental space. That only happens if guys are truly bought into the team success. And that's a challenge. It's a challenge not only in today's times, but in sports in general. As a competitor, you want to be on the court, you want to be on the field of play, contributing, but to be able to be selfless like that and be locked into the overall success. I mean, that's the thing. Those are some of the things that make you most proud as a coach.
And, before, I just want to move on, to the Davidson game. I know you guys have some time off, but, the confidence you guys have as a staff in Courtright, a guy, I know, that Northeastern game, didn't get the start, and it seemed like he just responded in an unbelievable way. I mean, if you watch that game, whoever watched that game, he was kind of the focal point, brought you guys over the hump in that second half. His ability to score and just his confidence felt like it carried on to the St. Joe's game. But just to give him the ball in that moment, the confidence you have in him and his ability.
Yeah, he's a veteran. He's a veteran. Louis is someone who he's a strong-willed individual, strong personality. He's been in big moments before. If you talk to him long enough, he'll let you know. He's not new to this. He's true to this. He understands the moment, and he responded. And I think you're able to respond in that way when you're doing it. It sounds cliche, but when you're doing it for your team and not for yourself. If you're focused on how can I help my team be successful, you're able to put aside any personal feelings. You have a clear head, you have a clear mind, you have a clear focus on what the goal is. And we were locked in the huddle. I mean, it showed up in our time and score preparation before the game. I think Coach Miller's been doing a great job of getting these guys locked into possession by possession. And that was the next possession. We had the 5 guys he had chosen to be on the floor. The 5 guys went out and executed the possession, and it worked out for us.
Definitely. And you had mentioned, you talk about play-by-play, margin of victory, and the difference between, winning games is so small, especially in conference play in particular. Looking at that game, I'm sure you guys have had some time maybe to kind of look at that. Obviously, a win's a win, and you take that. But just, in those tight moments, end of game situations, what do you guys as a staff continue to kind of press on, with these guys and improve upon, again, as you go on the road, which is always difficult, in these conference matchups, which is end of game situations, what you guys are working on and where you guys need to improve moving forward.
Yeah, obviously for us, we're a program that's going to always pride ourselves on our defensive abilities, our defensive execution. So, I mean, there's a lot of things for us to tighten up. I think a big part of it is going to be our, continuing to grow together, the communication. We want to shore up our defensive rebounding. We want to continue to share the basketball. I know we had a second half the other night where we were able to score 48 points. And for us, there's still a lot of room for improvement as far as our execution and the things we want to get accomplished together. But the guys are working. At the end of the day, it's, if we had for some reason lost that game by 1 point, it would have been the same level of work, the same level of urgency the next day in practice. And that's kind of where we're at. That's kind of the point that we're at in this season. We're on that journey to figure out how to be the best versions of ourselves, at the end of the day. Championships are going to be won in March. And we're trying to figure out how we can put together the best version of ourselves as we head towards March. So each game is going to present a different challenge. You're going to battle through adversities. It's the nature of the beast. Is what you deal with over the course of a season. But we're enjoying the process, and the only way to truly enjoy the process is to come every single day ready to invest in the work. And that's what we're doing. So execution is going to be huge for us, offensively and defensively. All the the basic basketball things that you need to get better at. That's really where we're at. I mean, there is nothing drastic. It's about being the toughest, most hard-nosed group each and every night.
Definitely. And like I said, you got a road game coming up. You got some time off. Obviously, Davidson, I know you guys have time to kind of dive into that. But best of luck. And I will have to say, I know you guys, this is early on kind of in the this chapter of Rhode Island basketball, but just I know students weren't there, it's vacation, but that crowd in that moment, I have to imagine too, though. I know it's on to the next one. You guys are already there, but just to kind of have that, feel that with the crowd, with that community, I'm sure it was a good feeling to be at home for that one.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've said it before and I'll say it again. Like the home crowd and the energy that we receive from the home crowd is paramount for us. We need it. We're a new group that's coming together. And by new group, I mean it's a new group of players who are experiencing the Rhode Island culture. And a big part of Rhode Island culture is the fan base and the way the fan base supports us and the way the fan base drives us, the way they show up for us is huge. I hear them talking about it. Obviously, you notice anytime you come into the arena before game time, and in big moments, they're with us. They're with us, and they're driving these guys to be better. And we want to play hard for these guys. The fans, the players want to play hard for the fans. They notice, the fans notice when we're not playing hard. And it's something that we talked about. Like we want to be able to pull forth a good product each and every time we step on the floor.
Well, listen, Coach, thank you. Appreciate the time. I know it's always a busy time for this year, the next game, the next season, all of that. So I appreciate it. And best of luck against Davidson, and we'll be in touch.
All right, appreciate you. Thank you.